The movie begins with Joy, a student who moved from Tokyo to a small village because of her parents' jobs. At her new school, her classmates constantly bullied her. One day, she noticed her shoes were missing from her locker and realized the bullies had taken them. Not long after, a boy named David approached her. He was the only one in class who treated her kindly. He asked why she was still at school so late, but she didn't want to bother him and simply said she was waiting for someone. Later that day, Joy went into the forest and found the 7 bullies: Steve, Ronnie, Bob, Julie, Jane, Annie, and their leader, Jess. Jess didn't bully Joy directly, she just stood by and watched her friends do it. The bullies threw Joy's shoes into the mud, then pushed her in after them, calling her names and mocking her. They did it because they thought Joy had stolen David from Jess. After they left, Joy went home. When her little sister Rihanna saw her in that state, she burst into tears and hugged her tightly. Their parents couldn't bear the sight and held both daughters close. The next day, Joy went with her father to talk to her teacher, Miss Rose, about the bullying. But Miss Rose only told Joy to stay focused on her studies, reminding her that graduation was just a month away and that the school would soon close due to a lack of new students. Joy and her father had no choice but to accept it. When Joy returned to class, she found the words, "Just die," carved into her desk. The bullying didn't stop there. Steve deliberately tripped her father on the stairs, causing him to fall. Later, they placed a goat's head inside Joy's desk, terrifying her so much that she refused to sit down during the lesson. When she got home, she discovered her father had injured his back after Steve kicked him with a shoe that had a tack in it. Her father decided to keep her home from school, hoping to protect her from further harm. 3 days later, Joy came down with a fever. At school, the bullies grew bored without their usual victim, so they sent a classmate named Riel to visit Joy with a message. When Riel arrived at Joy's house, she politely asked how she was feeling. Joy was touched, thinking Riel truly cared. But then Riel suddenly asked to borrow a cassette tape and took a picture of her with her phone. Joy was confused and began to suspect something was wrong. In the end, Riel confessed that the bullies had forced her to come and asked Joy to return to school, fearing she would become their next target if Joy stayed away. But Joy refused, and soon the bullies turned their cruelty on Riel. They locked her in a closet, cut her hair, and humiliated her, forcing her to endure it so she wouldn't end up like Joy. After some time, Riel tried to win them over, asking if they wanted to be friends, just to avoid being treated like an outcast. Once they accepted her, she pretended to tolerate their cruel jokes and insults, while secretly plotting her own plan to deceive them. The next day, Riel showed up carrying a gallon of gasoline, planning to burn down Joy's house. The others agreed to join her, but Jess backed out at the last moment. At that time, Joy and Rihanna were walking around the village when they ran into David, who was enjoying his favorite hobby, taking photos. Joy left with David after she had dropped Rihanna off at home. Before she left, Rihanna gave her a bracelet that Joy had made at school. David and Joy walked around the village, talking and swapping stories. Meanwhile, the bullies went to Joy's house and poured gasoline everywhere, even dousing her mother with it. Then Steve calmly set her on fire. Rihanna and her father saw what happened. The bullies soaked them with gasoline too and burned them to death. When Joy and David returned that evening, she saw her house on fire and felt a wave of panic. She ran toward it without hesitation, but found a group of people standing outside and no sign of her family, which meant they hadn't survived. Joy felt intense rage and deep regret. David ran inside and came back carrying Rihanna, who was still alive despite severe burns. She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition, but she survived. Before her father breathed his last, he held her to protect her and sacrificed himself for her. David's bravery proved he was a true friend to Joy. After the incident, Joy moved in with her grandfather, hoping Rihanna would wake from her coma. The next day, the bullies looked worried. Even Julie and Jane cried. But their fear wasn't from guilt. It was the possibility of being caught for burning Joy's family. They panicked because Steve had burn marks on his fingers that could expose him. He swore he hadn't meant to burn them, even though it was clear the fire had been planned in advance. Riel went to Jess to tell her what had happened, hoping Jess would be proud of her, but Jess stabbed her hand with a pencil. Even though Riel had been part of the fire, she failed to win Jess's approval. Jess returned home in a fight with her father, who refused her plan to attend a beauty school in Tokyo and said he would decide her future. This showed that her aggression at school might come from feeling suffocated under her parents' control. As winter approached, Joy decided to go back to school. Romy and her girlfriends were terrified, fearing Joy would discover their role in the fire. At the end of the school day, Julie, Jane, and Annie took Joy into the woods. They didn't apologize. Instead, they admitted to burning her family and announced their intention to kill her to finish things once and for all. Hearing this, Joy felt herself break inside. How could they kill her innocent family for no reason? Her anger and deep sorrow pushed her to choose revenge, and she succeeded in killing the bullies. The next day, news of Annie, Julie, and Jane's disappearance spread through the school. Steve was terrified when he heard, and his fear grew when the police arrived. David asked Steve why he was worried about the police, explaining they were only investigating the disappearances, not arresting anyone. Steve felt relieved after that. On his way home early to relax, Steve unexpectedly ran into Joy. Joy used a small knife to attack him. Steve fell and broke his leg. Joy didn't kill Steve right away. She let him die slowly. She left him lying on the ground, his leg broken, blood pouring out, suffering with every breath. As the heavy snow fell, Steve died in pain from his wounds. After his death, Joy missed school for several days, which made David worried enough to visit her. Her grandfather told him she had been sleeping a lot and added that he planned to move her and Rihanna to Tokyo. David felt sad, knowing he might never see Joy's face again. Meanwhile, Riel was with her mother when Ronnie, who was with Bob, called her. He told her Steve had gone missing and was probably dead, and he suspected Joy was behind it all. He asked her to confirm his suspicions, while he planned to kill Joy himself. The next day, Joy left her grandfather's house, unaware that Ronnie and Bob were watching her from a distance. Ronnie tried to shoot an arrow at her but missed. Realizing she was being hunted, Joy ran into the forest, where Ronnie and Bob split up to search for her. Eventually, Bob caught her, but Joy grabbed a pair of pliers and squeezed his nose until it bled. Ronnie fired another arrow, but it missed and struck Bob in the head, killing him instantly. Then Joy slashed Ronnie's stomach open and stabbed him repeatedly until he died. She couldn't accept that the people who killed her family were still alive, so she decided to slaughter them one by one in revenge. The next day, David visited Joy again, and she was happy to see him. They walked together until they reached a quiet place. He told her he'd feel very lonely if she left, but she didn't answer. She just bit her lip until it bled. She no longer cared about friendship or love. Even in her silence, David understood what was in her heart and told her he would take care of her no matter what, even if it meant staying by her side forever. After returning with David, Joy went to visit Rihanna, but she grew worried because her sister's condition hadn't improved. Meanwhile, David talked to his grandmother, with whom he'd been living since his parents were killed. He told her he planned to study and work in Tokyo so he could stay close to Joy, even though Joy no longer cared about anyone. That night, Riel went out searching for the bullies, but froze in terror when she found the bodies of Julie, Annie, and Jane buried in the snow. She immediately called Jess, but Jess refused to answer. Jess felt disgusted by Riel, even though Riel had done horrible things for her. Riel realized her friends had been killed one after another, and that she would be next. The next day, Riel called Jess again. Finally fed up, Jess answered. Riel told her what she had seen, the 3 girls' bodies buried in the snow. She was terrified and begged for help, but Jess showed no concern, saying they were only facing the consequences of their own actions and that she wanted no part of it anymore. Riel was deeply shocked by her coldness. Later, Jess and Joy met at the bus station. When Jess saw her, she quickly returned the cassette tape Riel had borrowed and said she'd taken good care of it. They didn't act like enemies. Instead, they talked calmly and checked on each other. After all, they had once been very close friends. Joy had always talked to Jess about Tokyo, making her dream of living there someday. When David, the new student, arrived, he and Joy quickly formed a strong bond and spent a lot of time together, which caused tension between Joy and Jess. Jess wasn't comfortable with it, so she allowed their classmates to make fun of Joy, hoping it would bring Joy closer to her again. But the problem wasn't that Joy had stolen David, it was that Jess felt jealous of losing time with Joy. Even so, Jess never took part in the bullying, because deep down, she still considered Joy a friend. But things spiraled out of control before she realized it, and she later apologized to Joy after understanding that she had caused everything that happened. Later, on her way home, Riel tried to stab Jess from behind, but Jess dodged the attack just in time. Riel did it because Jess had hurt her feelings by not appreciating her, then choosing to meet Joy instead. When Riel realized Jess would fight back, she was forced to defend herself. It turned into a bloody fight. Riel fatally wounded Jess, who collapsed in the snow and slowly died as Riel fled. At the same time, Joy got a call from David. When he found out she was planning to move to Tokyo, he begged her to stay, saying he would move there too. She felt awkward and turned him down before hanging up. David became furious and lost control, hitting the wall until his hand bled. He went upstairs to his elderly grandmother, who was later found covered in blood, revealing that he had attacked her after she refused to let him travel, saying he was still too young and had no one to look after him. Despite her pain, the grandmother gave him a sincere piece of advice, not to lose what remained of his family. At that moment, David confessed that he had killed his parents, his father because he used to come home drunk and beat his mother, and then his mother, believing he was freeing her from her suffering. The grandmother shed a few tears. His crimes, from killing his parents to torturing her, came from years of psychological trauma caused by witnessing domestic violence, which had left him severely disturbed. In the end, the grandmother died from her injuries. The next day, parents who had lost their children gathered in front of the school and accused Ms. Rose, the teacher. But she showed no reaction. It turned out she too had been bullied as a child. When the angry parents confronted her, painful memories resurfaced. She panicked and ran off, only to fall in front of a snowplow and get crushed to death. Meanwhile, Joy was on her way to visit Rihanna, while Riel was in the hospital trying to burn Rihanna alive with gasoline. But Joy arrived just in time and saved her sister. Later, David came to visit Joy and told her that her grandfather had been the one who showed him where to find her. Shortly after, a nurse told Joy that her grandfather had been badly injured, which filled her with panic. Suddenly, she began to suspect that David might have been the one who tried to kill him, especially since he was the last person to see him alive. She caught up to David just as he was about to leave and forced him to show his hand. When she saw the scars, she knew he was the attacker. David confessed that he did it so they could live together, just the two of them, revealing that his obsession with her had completely taken over his mind. Then Riel suddenly appeared, blaming Joy for everything. She said Joy's absence from school was the reason all of this happened, the reason the bullies got angry. Riel went on to describe how she killed Joy's parents while they screamed, and how Rihanna begged for mercy as the bullies laughed. That sent Joy into a storm of rage, grief, and devastation. She charged at Riel without thinking, and ended up being stabbed herself. David then realized that Riel was the one who had set Joy's house on fire, so he decided to prove his love by avenging her. He brutally killed Riel, then turned to Joy with a smile, hoping to impress her. But Joy noticed a photo in his bag and screamed. It turned out that during the fire, David hadn't gone inside to save Rihanna. Instead, he had been trying to photograph the burning bodies of her family and only rescued Rihanna after hearing her screams. He had done it all in hopes that Joy would fall in love with him. When he tried to explain the photo, Joy ignored him and pulled the knife from her own stomach to kill him. Furious that she wouldn't give him a chance, David attacked her and demanded she look at the camera and give a big smile. He had completely lost his mind. Just as he was about to take the picture, Joy found Ronnie's bow and shot an arrow straight through the camera lens, piercing David's eye and killing him instantly. After everything that happened, Joy tried to walk toward Rihanna's room, but the bleeding wouldn't stop and her strength faded away. A memorial ceremony was later held at the school. And surprisingly, Jess had survived that night, determined to go to Tokyo and follow her dream. As for Joy, she no longer had the strength to go on. She died, leaving Rihanna completely alone. And that's where the movie ends. If you enjoyed this summary, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Have a great evening wherever you are. See you in the next movie recap.